So I came across this reference photo on one of those free photo sites the other day, and as a beginner, I would have probably painted it something like that, which is a fairly accurate copy of the photo. But now that I'm a little bit more advanced, my version of this photo would look something like that, which is obviously quite a departure from the original photo. But let me explain how I got from the photo to this final version here and why I think that is a better painting. The first thing that we want to avoid too much in our paintings are boring straight lines, horizontals, and verticals. When we have the opportunities, we aim for angles and oblique shapes. And you can see that I've added a little bit of perspective in here. We also made the roof more side on so that we have much more interesting shapes. It also adds more depth because now we have perspective in the painting. And in a similar vein, here the hill slopes slightly and is straight. So I kind of maintained that as well. But we have more of a movement going sort of this way because of the roof, which is also the reason why I've changed the sky from puffy clouds to getting some movement in there so that we continue with this movement throughout the painting so that we come in from the left and then travel through to the right. The same idea here is why I added this road. We also wanted to have some leading lines going into the painting and creating this movement towards the house, which is obviously the hero of our painting. Up here, this is all quite boring and flat. So having this road and then those posts in here that have some perspective again, now everything points to that house from two directions. We have angles and oblique shapes, and we've got leading lines, two things. The next thing I did was I framed the house much better. So the next thing I did was to frame the house much better. You can see here we have very little contrast between the roof and the skyline and even between the background. So I framed the house with the dark tree. So I moved the tree from over here to here because it was kind of covering up that shack. As you can see up here, there's not a lot of definition. This is an awkward shape between there and there. So I moved the tree behind the house, which gives me maximum contrast here. Again, the house being the main focus of the painting. This allows me to really punch this out because now I have the maximum contrast between the light of the roof and the dark of the tree. The second tree was kind of on the same level as the first tree, which again is quite boring. So I've moved that further to the foreground, helping us again with the perspective, but also just making that much more interesting to having different heights here. Let's talk about the background. In the original photo, you can see the mountains taller on the right side and then it slopes down to the left. I reversed this because I wanted to continue with this idea of moving into the picture plane. Next, I changed the color of the background mountains. I made it much cooler. They push much further into the distance that way, more aerial perspective. And, I got rid of those green trees there. I didn't add anything. Just confuses us in the depths of the painting. Just simplifying that. The next thing I want to point out is that I've added some depth with light and dark sides. The light's coming in sort of from this side. That's why we have a bit of shade here, the shadow here. And then this side of the house is darker. That gives us more depth in the painting, more three-dimensionality, but also lets me connect those two shapes. So we don't really see where the house ends and the tree starts, which is what watercolour is all about. I've also connected the ground with that side of the house here and connected this with the tree. When we have straight lines and things sit on top of the ground, it's pretty boring and they also can float. So it's much better to have, different objects connect with each other, especially things that need to be connected to the ground. It's better to connect them into the ground, even for houses, so not have a clear line there. And then when we do have a transition, make sure that the edge isn't straight, so you can see that, you know, there is no straight line here. And the same over here. I just made sure that we have ragged lines, edges, that we have like an interlock between different shapes. Hope you find these tips useful on how to look at a reference photo when it's a bit boring and making it a more interesting painting. And if you want to see me paint the second version as a little step-by-step demo, then hang around for the next part of the video where I talk through some of the techniques I use to paint this. And if not, then maybe jump on this video where I also talk about some strategies on how to improve on a failed painting. I'm painting a soft sky, so I'm going to start with a bit of water, and my water was actually quite dirty, so there is a bit of a blue tint to it, but that's okay because I'm going to paint it blue in a minute anyway. But I'm just leaving out my white clouds, and then I'm dropping in some cerulean blue for my sky color. I want this sky to be really simple, really soft, no fuss. And with the same blue that I've already got on the palette, I'm also going to paint in the water in the background, and I'm paying attention to get a really nice sharp edge around that roof because that's the thing that needs to stand out. So we want to frame that nice and sharp. And you can see I painted straight through the background mountains. We're just going to glaze over the top of them in a minute, but that means they are already cool and recede into the distance. Now I've mixed up a warm green, adding a bit of raw sienna into that so that we go from the mid-ground to the foreground and it gets warmer and warmer. Just one of those little color tricks that is always good to apply into your landscapes, to go from cool in the distance and then getting a warmer as we come to the foreground. Also dropping in my road, but that got a little bit too dark. I want that road to be lighter than the surrounding field. So I'm gonna lift a little bit off with a tissue, and then I'm gonna keep building up my foreground, getting warmer and darker as we get to the edge of the painting, because that's another device that I'm using that I didn't talk to in the intro. Dark sky at the top and a dark foreground to frame the picture even more. Everything leads to the house in this painting. It is a bit obvious as a composition, but as a means to explain how you can improve your very simple landscape paintings into something just a little bit more interesting. I hope you agree that these are some useful things to know, and once you know the rules, you can break them later on. And I've already painted in the house with some raw sienna and a bit of burnt sienna for the shadow side. And while there's still a bit of moisture in the foreground, I'm just going to add a bit more value to it. I've let it completely dry. That was my first wash, my very soft wash. And now I'm going to glaze over the top with my second layer. And I'm using a very similar color than I've used in the sky. I've just toned it down a little bit with some ultramarine blue and maybe a dash of red just to push it into a little bit of a purple. And that gives us a nice distant mountain range because it's very close to the same colors as the water and the sky. They recede nicely. They attract virtually no interest. And I'm just going to drop in a couple of puddles of pigment there to get a little bit of texture. I've let that dry again. I didn't have to really, but I think it's dry because I'm not going to touch it at the moment while I paint those middle ground rows of trees in there. And this is now greener, but not a vibrant green or a warm green. I would still want those trees to be pushed back into the middle distance. So it's a cool green, stronger in value. It's darker than the background, darker than the water, so that we can actually see them. And then I'm going to use the same color all the way through, paying attention to that the top edge isn't even, has a bit of a random feel to it. And the same at the bottom, as I've explained in the intro, I don't like straight edges. Well, not that I don't like them, it just doesn't make for an interesting element. So leaving the bottoms of distant rows of trees ragged and a bit random makes it look way more natural. I've dropped in my two trees as well, even while that middle strip of trees is still wet. and I'm making them even darker and also more saturated, so adding a little bit more color into it. I've got a bit of quinacridone gold and ultramarine blue, which is one of my all-time favorite green combinations. And now I'm adding more ultramarine blue on the shade side. But I've already pushed this value quite high, so I won't go much darker in this painting than what I'm doing in this tree. As I explained earlier, the roof is the strongest contrast against that dark tree that's framing it. And now I'm going to finish off with some dark details. First comes the barn. And I've changed another thing in the painting versus the photograph. I'm not going to go for horizontal beams of the wood. I'm going to keep it vertical because it looks better. That's the simple explanation. And it's easier to paint. And I'm just going to hint at some texture for that light side of the barn or house. And I'm just going to hint at that door as well. Don't have to paint the whole thing. And that's enough. And as I said, I'm not going to paint it on top of the ground. I'm going to leave the ground and the side of the house connected. Almost the same color, same value. And there's a little shed at the end. And then I'm going to dry brush very gently. Just a bit of texture onto the roof. That's all it needs. All right, I mixed a stronger, warmer green yet again. And now I'm going to create some texture into those fields. And I'm going to dry brush into the direction towards the house, creating even more perspective. It's getting a little bit obvious that everything points to the house, but it looks good, so why not? I know some of you might think, why is the house smack bang in the middle? Isn't that the one thing you shouldn't be doing? And I agree. In an ideal world, I would have moved that house probably over a little bit to the left. But, you can always crop it. If I was to crop this painting with a mount, I'd probably take off a fifth or a quarter of the painting on the left-hand side so that it's not quite in the middle. Right, strength in the foreground even more, adding a bit more texture, a bit of grass. Not too much detail. I don't want to attract the attention in the wrong places. If there's too much detail right at the bottom of the painting, then we keep staring at it. It's just there to lead us into the painting towards the house. That left-hand side is looking a little bit better because I've moved the tree. So I'm going to invent some fence posts just to break up that space a little bit. And again, always making sure we don't just repeat and make everything the same. So all of those posts are a little bit wonky, leaning in different angles. And then just connecting those, but not all the way out of the picture. And because I've got fence posts in the back, I'm going to also add a few more in the foreground. It's another one of those compositional tricks you got to have in the bag, is to repeat things throughout your painting, bigger and smaller. So big fence posts in the foreground, small in the background, trees, clouds, etc., etc. Never make them the same, but it's like an echo. And that's this painting finished. And if the one thing you're thinking now is, but I don't know how to paint trees, well, I have got just a video for you. You can watch next. Thanks for watching.